Who built these civilizations? How were these stones lifted? The people who did it left and took their secrets with them. It's the kind of question that every time we try to bury it, resurfaces somewhere else in the world and drags us straight back into a spiral of mystery and controversy. Were we ever truly alone in building what we've built, or not? Investigator, file open. Today's case, Puma Punku, the secret of a lost civilization. This is a controversial site, an archaeological location that is mysterious in every aspect. Its origin, its builders, its purpose, impressive on its own. And the deeper you look, the stranger the antiquities around it get. Its architecture has confused scientists for over a century. And the biggest mystery of all is locked inside one specific landmark. We'll get there. Accompany me, my friend, on the road to the Puma Punku site, inside the ancient civilization of Tiwanaku. Every time we think we've cornered one ancient mystery, another civilization rises out of the dust to complicate it further. Today we go to South America, specifically Bolivia. Before we talk about Puma Punku itself, we need to understand the civilization that built it, Tiwanaku. They lived high in the Andes Mountains, and recent studies confirm this civilization existed at least 500 years before the Inca. According to Inca records, the Inca themselves considered the Tiwanaku site, and everything in it, to be the literal place of creation. Even more than that, it's been established that the Tiwanaku people were the first in that region to offer holy sacrifices to their gods. This came from a joint research effort, the Oxford Center for Marine Archaeology at Oxford University, the Department of Anthropology at the University of Pennsylvania, and the Institute for Advanced Studies of Culture and Environment at the University of South Florida. A team of divers explored the Coa Reef near the island of the Sun, in Lake Titicaca, Bolivia. Why the dive? Anthropologist Jose Capriles explains. Back in 2013, during a sonar survey mapping the lake and its reefs, submerged treasures were discovered buried under the sediment. The dive that followed pulled up mountain cat-shaped incense burners, old-fashioned gold ornaments, and anchors from ancient ships, all buried together. And something else drew the researchers' attention. Bones. Not fish bones. Not the amphibian bones that naturally live in that lake. The research team identified them as belonging to 4 young llamas. That confirmed the researchers' suspicion. These weren't random remains. They were offerings made to ancient gods. And after study, scientists concluded these sacrifices didn't belong to the Inca at all. They belonged to Tiwanaku, a civilization that came long before them. Here's the problem. We know almost nothing else about Tiwanaku directly. Everything we know is inferred from sprawling monuments and ruins. And here's the strange part. Archaeologists have never found a single written record from this civilization. Not one. Which has led scientists to believe Tiwanaku may not have had a written language at all. Even the age of this civilization is disputed. The first ever written mention of Tiwanaku in history comes from 1549 by the Spanish explorer Pedro Chiesa de León while he was searching for the Inca Empire's southern capital. From there, the dating studies begin, and they don't agree. From 1910 to 1945, traveler and explorer Arthur Poznański used geological comparison and archaeological method to date the civilization between 11,000 and 17,000 years old. That belief held until the early 1970s, when Bolivian archaeologist Carlos Ponce Sanginés presented a new study, placing the site's founding around 1580 BC based on the oldest radiocarbon dating available at the time. That figure is still cited in some Bolivian publications and museums today. But it changed again in the early 1980s. Intensive new studies and updated radiocarbon analysis placed the civilization between 200 and 300 BC. And the most recent research, the current best estimate, puts Tiwanaku's rise at around 110 AD, flourishing in population and urban growth, between 700 and 1000 AD, with a population estimated at 400,000 people. Then something happened. The population left, all of it. They abandoned Puma Punku and other major sites completely unfinished. And because there are no written records, scientists cannot say for certain why. The leading theory is drought. The claim, drought struck their agricultural land, their main food source. Crops failed while population density stayed high, and the resulting famine pushed people out into the surrounding mountains looking for shelter. But climate studies contradict this. The drought that hit the region didn't begin until decades after the Tiwanaku collapse, which leaves that theory with a timeline problem. The second theory, internal violence. The evidence, relics left behind without looting or theft, but with clear signs of fire damage on nearby buildings and what looks like a deliberately destroyed food storage site, something like internal conflict. But the actual cause of that chaos is still unknown to this day. That leaves us with the remnants of this civilization, and this is where it gets stranger. First, the Gate of the Sun, one massive slab of rock carved into the shape of a gate. Archaeologists confirm it was moved from its original location. European explorers in 1800 found it lying flat on the ground, later transported, and installed at its current position. This gate is one of the pieces of evidence pointing toward that internal conflict theory. Even after restoration, the marks of intentional fracturing are still visible. A large crack runs across the top right of the archway. Geologists have confirmed that crack has nothing to do with natural weathering or erosion. It was caused. The inscriptions carved into it are just as striking. 48 symbols plus one central figure. 32 of those symbols are human faces. 16 are the heads of the condor, a sacred bird to this civilization. Every face looks toward the central symbol, from which 24 rays radiate outward, like a sunrise. Interpretations vary sharply. Some scholars call it a symbol of the sun god. Others connect it to Viracocha, the Andean god of creation. And others argue it's not religious at all, that it's advanced astronomical notation, marking an annual calendar and the 4 seasons. Nearby sits something that surprised everyone who studied it. The Wall of Faces. Exactly what it sounds like, a wall covered in carved human faces. And what's strange is that these faces don't match each other. Different bone structure, different features, as if they were carved to represent entirely different peoples from across the world. That's a problem, because long-distance ocean navigation and global contact didn't begin until centuries after this civilization disappeared. So how did the people who carved this wall know what those other faces looked like? And what were they trying to say? No one knows. If those 2 landmarks have your attention, hold on, because the site we came here for is next. It's called Puma Punku, the Puma Gate. Puma refers to the wild mountain cat native to this region. Remember those mountain cat-shaped incense burners pulled from the sediment of Lake Titicaca? That connection led researchers to believe the puma was one of this civilization's sacred animals. This site is unfinished, laid out roughly in the shape of the letter T. It contains stones, some of them weighing more than 100 tons. And some of those stones are joined together with such geometric precision that you cannot fit a thin blade into the seam between them. How they were fitted together has genuinely confused scientists. One theory, copper clamps, remarkably advanced metalworking for the era. Another theory, a bonding mixture of sand, clay, gravel, and lakebed sediment. Some of the stones show neatly engraved holes. Others show sculpting precise enough to look almost machined. Archaeologists Jean-Pierre Protzen and Stella Nair studied this and concluded that Tiwanaku's engineers used construction methods and equipment more advanced than anything else known from that era. Where they got it, nobody has an answer. And here's what makes it stranger: the stone itself. Most of it is solid granite. Granite that cannot be carved using the traditional tools known to have existed at the time. It needed tools that, as far as we know, weren't invented until centuries after this civilization collapsed. Alongside the granite, polished red sandstone blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons. Up to this point, no fine. Strange, but explainable. Here's where it stops being explainable. A geological survey found that the nearest quarry to Puma Punku is 10 kilometers away, and Puma Punku itself sits at an altitude of roughly 4,000 meters, near the peaks of the Andes. So the question becomes, how did they move multi-ton stones 10 kilometers and then lift them to the top of a mountain? One theory: wooden sledges or rollers, a method that would have predated similar transport systems used by later civilizations in the region. The problem: geological surveys show this land had no trees, none available to build sledges like that. So where would the materials have come from? A second theory: rope made from tough llama hide, used to drag the stones up the mountain. The problem here is scale. Moving stones of this size, this distance, at this altitude, would require a labor force so large it strains basic logic. And then, the theory you knew was coming. Listen carefully. The aliens. Multiple published articles and websites have floated the same claim. Outside forces, extraterrestrials, intervened in this construction. The theory goes that visitors from beyond Earth moved these stones to the mountaintop themselves and taught the people of Tiwanaku how to refine and carve them, providing technology and equipment far beyond what was locally available. Some go further, pointing to one indistinct, unclear face on the wall of faces and calling it a depiction of an alien. Archaeologist Alexei Granite has referenced this theory in his own writing on the Tiwanaku civilization without ever confirming or endorsing it. And like every other version of the ancient aliens theory, it has met heavy pushback. Most researchers in the field consider it unscientific and unrealistic. So Puma Punku remains what it's always been, an unfinished, mysterious site whose exact purpose scientists still haven't determined. A mystery that's still waiting for its secrets to surface, adding Tiwanaku to the long list of civilizations our world still can't fully explain. From the Gate of the Sun and its coded symbols, to the Wall of Faces and its impossible diversity, to Puma Punku itself, the questions stay vague. Who were the people who built this? What happened to them and their cities that made them walk away without warning, at the height of their prosperity and their legacy? How did they build something this precise, that's still standing on the peaks of the Andes today? Were they simply more advanced in architecture, in engineering, than history has given them credit for? Or did something else play a role in Puma Punku's construction, the way that same theory keeps resurfacing across almost every mysterious civilization we've covered? One day we may get conclusive evidence that settles this for good, or proof of exactly how the people of Tiwanaku pulled this off with their own hands. Until then, the file stays open. My name is Professor Cipher. Subscribe to join the investigation. What do you think really happened here?